Welcome back everybody to the daily show where we discuss and do technical analysis on big mega cap stocks. So before we get started, please smash that like button, and 100 plus likes on this video would be greatly appreciated, guys. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. Now if you want to support the channel and get my daily trade ideas, my swing trade ideas, live trading, and all kinds of setups, definitely check out their link down below in the description for Patreon. And now let's get right into it, guys. On Apple, stock is down 0.91%. So Apple was down today, where we saw big rallies on Meta, Nvidia, AMD, and pretty much on everything else. Now Apple, definitely, you can see how well this actually works out. We actually shorted Apple on Friday, pretty much right at the top, and still holding some puts. And now Apple down to 180 today, and I think Apple will soon close at least half of this gap, or possibly even this entire gap, and then from there Apple can push even higher. So watch out, guys. This might not be it. This pullback, we can see a deeper pullback on Apple stock. Soon as Apple breaks under 180, you're going to see 177, 175 right here, 5-day moving average, and then this gap 173, just like Microsoft. Now to the upside, as long as Apple can hold right here 180, now we need to get over 183. So for tomorrow's session, 180 strong support, and then 177 resistance will be on top, 183. Apple can break and hold 183, then watch out for more continuation and possibly not coming down here and going up all the way up to 190. On Microsoft, it's up 1.69%, so massive rally right here on Microsoft. And forget about this dump off that we saw last week. And this is where things don't line up. Okay, we got this big bearish engulfing candle. Yes, we got some sell-off right here, some follow through. And then on top of that, we got that big bounce to the upside. Immediately, we got a big bearish engulfing candle. And you would think that, this thing might drop even more. But look at the reversal right here, guys. 390 was holding, multiple touches, going below 390, coming back up, and now it's out of the woods, at least for today, closing above all these moving averages right here, and also into closing holding a critical level 413. So going into tomorrow's session, guys, 413, you're line in the sand right here on Microsoft. Below that, 408.52, 20 SMA, and then 402.38, all the way down to this gap 400. Now as long as Microsoft can actually stay above 413, the next stop 415, 420, and then we might be going back up to all-time highs again. On Google, stock it's up 0.5%, so Google was all over the place, and I was actually waiting for 165 dip on Google. That actually never came today. It came down to 168-ish right here, went back up to almost 170, but not above 170, and we kind of got this hammer type candle today. So watch out here on Google, guys. If this thing breaks 170, immediately you're going to see Google going up and closing this gap at 171.40, and then possibly going back up to all-time highs 176. Below 170, you're line in the sand now, 167.50, and then all the way down here 164, 13 SMA, this orange line, and then 162 down to this gap 158. On Amazon, stock it's up 1.34%, so Amazon came down to 185, went slightly under 185, and I said it in my video over the weekend that watch out, 185, it's going to be a critical level right here on Amazon. It was holding, and now pretty much closing at the high of the day and near 190. So now there is two possibilities right here on Amazon, guys. Possibility of a double top right here. We might get a rejection after hitting 190, and then watch out for a pullback immediately down to 185. Or this time, it might be a breakout over 190. And if that happens, the next stop, 194 plus. So watch out for 190 right here on top. Now to the downside, critical level to watch, 185. And below that, 5 SMA on this daily time frame, 182.73. I would say 183, because this will move up tomorrow. And then all the way down here, 181.51, 180. And then down here 179, and then we can talk about this gap right here at 173.92 on Amazon. On Meta, it's up over 3%, so another big rally here on Meta. Now, one thing I want to point out right here. You can see how close Meta was here. What was that? 414, 413, very close to this gap. And guess what? Again, it's a disappointment that, it would not even get down to this gap. But here's another thing that is even biggest disappointment here in this market, and not only here on Meta, so many other big names. Okay, we gap down here on earning, right? Big mega gap down. Look at the move. 414, 413 here, and now trading at almost 470. And the biggest thing here, it actually never came down to close this gap at 400, and forget about these gaps down here. But immediately, what we got? It's going back up to close the gap from this earnings right here, 484.58. So I think that is what's coming. And I said it before that Meta can actually stay under 452. Then there is a chance this thing will come down and close this gap at 400. But if this thing breaks and holds 452, then we're going back up to close this gap on top, and looks like it's heading that way right now. So that is just insane how this market is working right now. Any gaps we got here to the downside, it's not getting filled. If there is a gap down, immediately going back up to fill that gap on top. So it's just the way the market is working right now. And if you're buying calls, yeah, well, kudos to you. You made money because this thing was near this gap. But now, from this gap, not filling this gap completely, we're actually going back up to close the gap on top, which is really insane when you think about it, like how close this thing was to this gap. And now it's actually going back up to this gap here on top. So for tomorrow's session, guys, on Meta, 461.55, that's going to be your line in the sand right here. Below that, 452. As long as Meta can stay above 462, I would say, right here, then watch out for a move up to 470, 478, and then this gap, 484.58. On Tesla stock, it's up 1.97%. So Tesla, again, it's up on the day, just like I said in my thumbnail on my last video. Tesla is getting ready for a rally, and I think it's coming very soon. You're going to see Tesla going up to 200. Look at this Bollinger Band expanding, and it's actually sitting near 200, 197.32. So this thing can move now. And so far today, what we got? Tesla holding above 183, and actually it was running today, guys, almost up to 188, came back, and now trading above 183. So that's gonna be your line in the sand right here on Tesla, 183 for tomorrow. Below that, down here, 174, 172, this gap. As long as Tesla can hold above 183, this thing can push all the way up to easily 200. On AMD, it's up 3.44%. So AMD going all the way up to exactly like I said on my video, 20 SMA 156, and hitting 156.65, getting a rejection, and now trading at 155.78, up over 3% on the day. So I think early as tomorrow, guys, as long as AMD actually gets that breakout over 156, you're going to see immediately AMD going up to this gap, 158.35, and possibly up to even 164, and then 166.55 to close these two gaps on top. Now, this is actually a negative sloping 20 SMA. So we get a rejection off of this level right here, 156. Watch out for a pullback down to 13 SMA, 152.38, and then this gap, 150.79, and below this gap, we also have support down here, 148. So Netflix going up 3%, and look at this move right here on Netflix, just like Meta. So I'm not saying that Netflix should actually crash and go down and close all these gaps, but it's just insane how things are working here in this market. Look at this gap, this gap, this gap, this one right here, and so many other ones, below 354. We can look at it, but it don't really matter, right? But the point here that what I said on Meta, this is exactly the same thing happening right here on Netflix. We got this pullback with earnings, right? Now, instead of closing this gap, this massive gap, and maybe this was a nice buying opportunity after filling this gap right here, things are going back up to the upside, and it only took like 3 days. And now we're actually almost closing this gap at 605, and that can happen early as tomorrow morning, which is insane that we got all these gaps down here, but the stock and the market does not give a crap about gaps to the downside, but immediately goes back up to close that gap on top on any gap down here in this market, on any big names, and even the market itself. So here on Nflx tomorrow, guys, to the upside, well, it's almost near this gap right here, 605. There will be resistance at 602, 604, and then 605.44 to close this gap completely. And then from here, we might see some sort of a pullback. In that case, watch out for the support down here, 588, 585, and then right here, 567.88, all the way down to 564. On Nvidia stock, it's up 3.77%, so massive rally. And forget about this gap down here. Well, things are going even higher. And now this thing is near all-time highs again. It's not too far away, 974. So going into tomorrow's session on Nvidia stock, guys, watch out. The next stop, 926, and then all the way up here, 960, and then previous all-time highs, 974 to even 1000. Now we get a pullback. There will be support right here at 906 to 907, and below that level, watch out for 900, and then this gap down here, 862.37. If you get lucky and you actually bought puts today, we might get a pullback at some point down here to this gap. Or I think what's going to happen before they come out with earnings, in just a matter of what, 2-3 weeks, this thing can pump over 1000, and then with earnings you're going to see a mega dump just like we saw on Meta. So watch out right here on Nvidia stock. I actually stopped trading Nvidia, guys. There is so many other things out there in the market I can trade, less risky. And it's not about cheap and expensive. It's mostly about, risk to reward ratio. And I don't see a lot of reward trading in Nvidia stock, buying each contracts for $2,000, where I can go and spend that money on something like GME, which I did today. And it was a fantastic trade. Bought some puts at 17 and easily came back to what, $14 within just a few minutes. That trade was fantastic. We made money. But where in this case, you're going to spend like $2,000 on one contract and you're going to make like 200 out of it. Unless there is like a big move, and then, you actually go and catch that big move like $50-$60 up or down, depending on what position you're taking. And then you can make money on Nvidia stock, which I think that, like Nvidia, it's not worth trading, at least for myself. And that is why I'm not even trading. So let me know your thoughts on that, and I'll definitely keep you guys updated going into tomorrow's session.